So I'm going to teach you now how to take a sprite sheet and move it into After Effects and use that to get some animation. So I've got a sprite sheet here. It's just a random one that I've picked off the internet. What you want to do is you want to pick one with as many animations as possible. A white background is fantastic, but it doesn't really matter. The first thing that we want to do is we want to pull it into Photoshop so I can open my file. I'm going to go and find where I put my sprite sheet tutorial. There we go. Open it up. All right. I need a transparent background, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and use the magic wand tool. I'm going to turn off contiguous. Contiguous means connected to something else. I click white, I delete. Great. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to show you how to do the punch animation, which is just going to be these 15 sprites here. Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to go into the slice tool, which is just underneath your crop. I'm going to zoom in just so I can see what I'm doing, and I'm going to slice this character out, and I'm going to continue through using the slice tool, and I'm going to try and get all of these animations. Alright, so you really want to do the entire sprite sheet at once, but if you just 100% don't need certain sprites, you don't have to cut them out in this way. So if you can just go back like any other image, of course. So I've got my sprites chopped out with my slice tool. The next thing I do is I go File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. So what this will let me do is I can go into PNG 24 and then I can get a transparency, but I do need to select holding Shift the ones that I want to use. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to zoom in, so Command plus, I need to make sure they are selected. My Shift key is not working, but that's okay. Hold down Shift, select all the ones that you want to include, and then I can go through. So I've got those all selected, I can go save. I want to save it in a new folder because otherwise it's going to be problematic. So I'm going to find my sprite sheet tutorial, new folder, and I'm going to call this Joe Animation, create, and then I can save, and that will give me a whole bunch of still images. So if I look into my file now, I've got my images. It's cut all of these things that I didn't want, so I can delete them. I'm just going to move them down into the trash. So the reason that happened is because I didn't slice up every single sprite. So anything that wasn't sliced, it's put out as different images. So I can clean that up now. Oh, sorry, I'll go arrange by name. If I put this into an image program now, so I can maybe open it with preview or something, that'll work fine, and I can look through it. But what I want to do now is I want to move into After Effects. So I've got After Effects here. Hopefully it'll let me in, and I can just load the images up. Then I can set it up to be a flipbook, which I can loop, and you basically just want to keep doing that throughout the entire assessment task. So what you do is you set up a different cycle for your walk, a different cycle for your punch, and you just loop them to play whenever you want them to work. So I've got a composition here. I want to create a new file. So a new composition, whatever length and size that we're using, I go File, I import my file, and I find where I've put my sprite sheets for my animation. So I've got my images, I select everything, I hit open. Alright, and that gives me a GIF. And if I look up into the left corner, I can see that I've got a nice movement here. I'm happy with that. I've got an idle animation here without realizing, and a walk animation. So I'm just going to do the walk animation, which is 10 to 20. So if I take 10 to 20 and I drag them into here, I can see that I've got something small. I'm going to press S and I'm going to scale them up just so you can see. Alright, so if I've got all of these scaled up, what I can do now is I can make each one go for an amount of frames. So usually it's best to use something like 3 frames per image. I'm going to zoom in here so I can see up close. Right now it's set to be too long, but I can put this in for 3 frames. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my thing, and I'm going to go keyframe assistant, and I'm going to sequence my layers. Sequence my layers. Now what will happen is you'll see the character and he'll do his walk animation. So we've got a minute of footage, but we don't need a minute of footage. We actually only need 1 second of footage. So I'm going to go into my composition. I'm going to right click on that composition settings, and I'm going to change it from being 1 minute to 1 second. Okay, if I play it now, you'll see that my animation loops, and I'm pretty happy with that. What I need to do now is I need to put this into a final composition. So I've got my final composition here. I can drag composition 1 into composition 2. My character's maybe a little bit too big. I can scale him down, make him whatever I want it to be. So right now, what you'll see is I've got 1 second. I'm going to make composition 2 last for a minute because your assessment task says you need to have a 1 minute animation. So I'm going to go through there. Great, got that working. So what you'll see now is my character only lasts 1 second, but I don't want that. I want it to last for the full minute or whatever it is that it needs to be. So I'm going to go into composition 1. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go time, enable time remapping. What that'll let me do is it'll let me stretch out my character as long as I want. But you'll notice I've got my keyframes here and it will only work for that amount of time. What I can do is I can go into my time remap, hold down the option key on your Mac, and I can go in and do a loop out keyframe. So if I do loop out, and then I set this up to cycle, it will repeat the cycle of keyframes. I click off it, it says it contains an expression error. That's because I forgot to put in my quotation marks. So if I don't put in quotation marks, it will say that there is an expression error and it will not work. So now when I play, it loops, but I've got a bit of an issue with a double frame happening somewhere. So if I look in here, I can see that on this frame and on my first frame, it's creating a weird double, but now it's okay. So what I might want to do is I might want to go in and take a look at composition 1, make sure everything's working okay there, and everything seems to be working fine. All right, so it's not a problem there. It may be a problem with, that's very strange. If I play it again, I'm still getting it. Okay, so if I go in here and I make it so I've got a keyframe on my second last frame before it, and then I go in, I can see that now I've got the problem. Okay, so if I keyframe here and I delete this one, okay, so I'm getting that again. That is very strange. I'm going to try a different, I'm going to try ping pong. If I ping pong, I may not be getting that issue anymore. Okay. Okay, so now I've got my character and it's doing my loop the way that I want it to. So what ping pong does is it just allows us to, it goes forwards and then it goes backwards, which is okay for a run. I've got a little bit of a jerk here and that could be to do with the frames that I've chosen. But what you need to do is you need to create this comp for each movement that you want to do. You might want to call it something as well like character walking, and that way we can see it easily. Then all I need to do to make my character walk across screen is put this character walking, and we can extend it to be as long or as short as we need to do it. I put in a position keyframe, so I go down here and I go to transform, put in a position keyframe. Say I want him to go 5 seconds to walk across the screen, I drag it to 5 seconds, and I pull my character across the screen. Now it's put in 2 keyframes, and I can walk. That is how you do a sprite sheet into a After Effects file, and that's all you need to do for this project. If you do it multiple times, you'll get your character walking and fighting and doing whatever you want pretty quickly. Thanks for listening.